Hi, this is Eric Erb from theericerbshow.com. You can find me online at theericerbshow.com and, of course, twitter.com/The Eric Erb Show. And you can also find me on anchor.fm. That's anchor.fm, The Eric Erb Show Live. And also find me on Spreaker.com/The Eric Erb Show Live. And, of course, my new platform, Podbeam.com, Eric Erb Show Live. Today, I want to talk to you about something, a little article that gives me a good laugh, a sort. The article reads out of naturalnews.com. The article reads, Twitter is now becoming a delusional bubble of liberal lies, or libtard lies, excuse me. All voices of reason are being systematically censored. Well, we know that, like the media, like Facebook and Twitter, and now even YouTube, clamping down on its creators, its video creators with YouTube, and of course Twitter and Facebook being the two biggest, Facebook being the biggest, then Twitter. We all know that what lies on Twitter is you have a lot of liberal folks and liberal people on Twitter. Just like you have a lot of conservatives, we all know that there's a lot of libtards out there. There's just a lot of dumbass people out there, and this is the truth. Let me just tell you a quick little story here. I started back on Twitter just about 9 years ago. So I've been on Twitter about nine and a half years now. I've been on Twitter for a long time. I've seen some social media networks come and go in that time, that nine and a half years. I've seen one or two that I liked. I've seen one or two that I didn't like. I've seen a lot of stuff in that nine and a half years. But consistently, I will say, in Twitter's defense here, even though I know there's garbage, there's smut, there's all kinds of shit on Twitter. Yeah, I know that. There's all kinds of trash. In 9.5 years of being on Twitter, I haven't had a problem. I haven't been, if you will, censored. Now, I did have something back in 2018. I don't know if a lot of you remember this. I remember this distinctly. I was approaching, I had a little over 400,000 followers on Twitter. And so somebody asked me one day, I was talking to a friend, well, what are your social media networks? I said, yeah, a little bit Facebook, but a lot Twitter, LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. But Twitter does pretty good. And I had a friend ask me and said, how many followers you have? I said, over 400,000. They were like, holy crap, that's a lot of fucking followers. I said, yeah, it's taken me a long time to get there. Well, if you folks remember, I believe it was in 2018, Twitter came through, and what they did is they took right off the biggest accounts. Mine was starting to get pretty good size. They came through and they just wiped everybody. Wiped meaning they took from me about almost 185,000 followers. And I was very, very, very angry. I mean, they hit President Trump. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of followers they took from him. They took about 185,000. They hit former President Barack Obama. I mean, that Twitter just did across the board. They were saying supposedly Twitter was trying to justify this, and they were saying that there's a lot of fake followers out there. We're just going to wipe everybody across the board there, spank everybody across the field, across the board, all you big accounts, blah, 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 blah. We're just going to take that and we're just going to take off just whatever it is. The bigger the account, the more we take. The little bit smaller account like mine at one time for over 400,000, we'll take a little less. So they just did across the board blanket, boom. They just cut it right in half. So now I'm down to about 111,000 followers on Twitter. That's okay, but that was probably in the 9.5 years I've been on Twitter. That's been the worst that's ever happened to me. Now, I got to admit that I was very, very angry. I was very mad at Twitter for weeks at a time, and I got over it, because I worked my fucking ass off 9.5 years to get to a point where you have a good following, a good build-up, a good following, and different things like that. And along comes Twitter, and boom, done. And again, Twitter did this to just about everybody. So I looked at it. I put things into perspective. I said, okay, well, at least we still have over 111,000 followers. Let's just deal with what we have right now and just try to make the best of it. So my thoughts and my opinion on Twitter, other than that situation happening, yeah, there's garbage wherever you go. There's garbage on Facebook. I've gotten on and off of Facebook multiple times because of the people on Facebook. Sometimes I think the people on Facebook are nuts, and people are like asking me, well, how do you deal with such a big Twitter account? Again, a little over 100,000 is not that big, but they're saying, how do you deal with that? I can tell you this from experience, dealing with a bigger account compared to Facebook, it's nothing. I can have 10 or 20 given people on any given day on Facebook ranting and raving, causing all kinds of drama. And compared to a 100,000 follower Twitter account, which I still have, I mean, it's nothing to manage 100,000 people. Just delete, block, whatever you got to do. That's the end of it. Facebook, sometimes it's not quite that easy. People manage to figure out ways through the loophole and still message you or send dirty hate mail or messages and stuff like that. So again, coming from my own personal experience, I've not had a problem that a lot of these people have, and maybe it's because I don't have millions of followers like they do, but I've never had too much of a problem on Twitter. And I will say that kudos to Twitter on at least that point. And again, realizing the reality is there is a lot of junk on Twitter. And again, there is a lot of junk. There is a lot of crap on Twitter. I'll definitely admit that. But so is it with all the other social medias. That's to be expected. You get on social media. It's not your platform. A lot of people forget that, like my friends on Facebook. They keep saying, well, geez, they took this down. They took that down. Facebook did this. Bah, and they're crying and crying and crying. And they don't understand you're using someone else's platform. So there again, like the saying goes, you are now the product. They will use your personal photos. They will use and access your data and information, your personal data and information. If you put a cell phone number, Facebook has your cell phone number, same as like Twitter. If you want to log in through a cell phone number, then there you go. Twitter and Facebook are both using your personal data. And that's not something that I recommend, but a lot of people do that. I have a couple different phone numbers I use. I try not to, at least on social media, use your personal phone number. Even, and just a suggestion, go out and get a Google, a Google number, go out and get Google Voice. That gives you a number. You can assign it with your own area code. So you have any calls coming to your Google number, not to your personal numbers, so you have your privacy still intact. I mean, that's a thought. There's a lot of different programs like that out there where you can get a different email address, a disposable email address if you want to register for a social network. You can get Google Voice. There's a lot of different apps on the Google market and on iOS. You can do that for your privacy. But again, going back to Twitter, it is what it is. It is a garbage, a sewer, a shithole a lot of times. But again, that garbage, shithole, and sewer, I've managed to survive, again, over 9.5 years. I've managed to, even with all the shit that's gone down and everything, I've still managed to thrive and survive on Twitter. And so, again, if you take things too serious, and if you can't laugh at yourself sometimes, you're too uptight. Maybe you shouldn't be on social media. And that's just my thought and my opinion. You have to take things with a grain of salt nowadays. You have to take people with a grain of salt nowadays, unless they physically or verbally threaten you. Then that's a lot different. Then you need to at least take that into account and take the appropriate recommended actions that you might need to take if you're being threatened. But again, going back to Twitter, it's been a decent, at least stable, somewhat stable platform for me for the last 9.5 years. So I'm going to end this podcast right now, and I want to thank everybody for listening. And you can find me online at theerickerbshow.com. Of course, twitter.com/theerickerbshow. You can also find me on anchor.fm/theerickerbshow live. And of course, my new Podbeam platform at Eric Erb Show Live. This is Eric Erb signing off.